Welcome to this edition of the M&A University presented by PCE Investment Bankers. Today we are discussing key terms you need to know before negotiating a purchase agreement. My name is Mike Rosendahl. I'm an investment banker for PCE Investment Bankers, and I'm based out of our New York area office. PCE is an investment bank providing M&A and ESOP transaction services to middle market businesses. Let's get started. Once you have identified a buyer and determined the purchase price for your company, it's time to negotiate the terms and conditions of the sale. These items are outlined in the purchase agreement, the main legal document in any sale. Today we'll cover the key terms that will be most important to you other than the purchase price. Understanding these terms will help you protect the proceeds from the sale of your company. At the end of the day, what is most important is not the sale price, but the amount of the proceeds you get to keep. Purchase agreements have many terms, but we'll stick to some of the more complex issues. There are 5 key terms for you to know. These terms include cap, basket, representations and warranties, and escrow, as well as a potential replacement for escrow, reps and warranties insurance. Moving on to the first item on our list. The cap is the upper limit of a seller's indemnification obligations to the buyer. In other words, the total amount of losses and damages a buyer is entitled to recover from the seller. Fundamental indemnification claims are normally excluded from the cap. The next key term is basket. A basket, sometimes referred to as a deductible, is designed to reduce the risk associated with the transactions by outlining indemnification, indicating the point at which the seller may be responsible for claims. It is the threshold amount of losses that a buyer must incur before being entitled to any indemnification from the seller. There are 2 types of baskets: tipping and non-tipping baskets. Tipping baskets are a type of basket that entitles the buyer to full recovery of all losses from the first dollar of losses once the incurred losses have reached the basket threshold. This structure is more favorable to the buyer. Non-tipping baskets, otherwise known as true deductible, is an alternative to a tipping basket that entitles the buyer to recover only the losses that exceed the deductible. This basket structure is more favorable to the seller. Examples of items that would cause a claim include undisclosed liabilities, undisclosed commitments, undisclosed issues with customers or supplier relationships. The next item on our list of key terms is representations and warranties. Representations and warranties in purchase agreements provide facts and security against loss if the statements made are not true. Fundamental representations and warranties are defined in the purchase agreement as issues that are so material the buyer would not have agreed to the transaction if false. These are not limited by the cap and basket. Examples of fundamental representations and warranties include organization and standing, power and authority to undertake the transaction, clear title to the securities of the company, taxes owed from any activity prior to the sale of the company, and title to the assets of the company. Non-fundamental reps and warranties are any representation made within the purchase agreement that is not clearly defined as fundamental, is by default non-fundamental. Essentially, everything else. These representations are subject to the cap and basket limits. On to the next term, escrow. Escrow is a portion of the purchase price that is placed in a third-party escrow account to serve as security for the acquirer for potential claims against the seller. An escrow is typically used to alleviate concerns about the seller's financial ability to cover post-closing indemnity claims if they should arise. It's important to note that this claim can be eliminated by reps and warranties insurance. Here's how an escrow account works. The seller puts a portion of the purchase price in an escrow account. If the buyer has a claim that exceeds the basket, they can make a claim to recover all or portion of the funds they are seeking from the escrow. Now let's discuss the final term and a potential replacement for an escrow, reps and warranties insurance. Reps and warranties insurance is a contract between the buyer or the seller and an insurance company, whereby the insurance company will indemnify the buyer for losses resulting from a breach of representations and warranties. It provides buyers and sellers with a powerful tool to shift the risk of financial loss arising from breaches of representations and warranties to the insurance company, giving the sellers certainty over sale proceeds and delivering the buyer a number of strategic benefits. Representations and warranties insurance has been around for more than 13 years. However, in the last 5 years, their use has increased significantly. Representations and warranties insurance is used in place of an escrow. The insurance company underwrites the policy based on the due diligence and representations and warranties in the purchase agreement. There is a deductible similar to the basket that needs to be met. Once this deductible is met, the insurance company would pay the buyer for any approved claims. One point that you should be aware of, these policies normally exclude known due diligence issues. Let's compare two transactions, both with a purchase price of $100 million and the proceeds to the seller at close, one without insurance and the other with insurance. With no insurance, the seller indemnity cap and corresponding escrow are assumed at 10% of the purchase price, or $10 million. With insurance, the seller can reduce their indemnity cap to 0.5% of the purchase price, or $500,000, to satisfy half the retention under the policy, assumed at 1% of the purchase price, or $1 million. We are assuming an insurance premium of $300,000. As a result of the seller's lower escrow indemnity, the purchase price proceeds received at closing with insurance increases to $99.2 million from $90 million with no insurance. Again, a basket is defined as the amount beyond which the buyer is able to claim losses against the seller and/or the insurance company. In the with insurance scenario, it represents half the retention or deductible. The other half is assumed to be met by the seller as shown here. Thanks for joining me today. We welcome your comments and questions, so please feel free to contact me. My information is listed here. And if you like this presentation, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be notified whenever new content is posted.